the Peach Bowl, we have more opportunities to hear from different people. We've heard from head coaches, we've heard from assistant coaches. Today, it was players for both Ole Miss and Penn State, and there was some stuff in the Ole Miss players press conference that stood out to you.
Yeah, and a lot of people. And number one, there are people, I guess, that are upset with the questions being asked, and I'm sorry, but it is absolutely their job to ask these questions. If you are mad at the reporters for doing reporting, then that's a you problem, not a them problem. Jaxson Dart and Quinshon Judkins were asked about their futures at Ole Miss. An appropriate question because they haven't made any kind of announcement, especially Dart, who's draft eligible. They hadn't said anything other than being noncommittal, and so you ask them when you get the chance.
Haven't said anything in a time where we have seen announcement after announcement after announcement of coming back, running it back, doing it again, can't wait to be back next year, and all the making these announcements has been a big deal.
Yeah. So if you're mad at those guys for asking those questions, you don't know what their job is supposed to be. Because, yeah, when you get a chance to ask Jaxson Dart, hey, you coming back? Because he hasn't answered that question before, you have to ask that question. And he gave an answer, or really not so much of an answer. And either did Quinshon. They both mentioned that they were only focused on the bowl game, that they'll make that decision after the game is over. They were asked about the players coming back and does that sway their decision, and Dart gave a really good political answer about yes, but weighing options and on and on and on, and it has got people kind of worried about their quarterback and running back not being back on the team for next year because they won't commit, quote unquote, to the answer.
All right, so Jaxson Dart, when asked about his decision going forward, he says the basic thing is I have a great support staff around me. I have great coaches. Obviously, my family is amazing, and I have great friends on the team. Honestly, not too worried about it right now. Just focused on the bowl game and focused on my preparation, doing my job to help my team in the best situation to win and help make history here. That was Jaxson Dart. Quinshon Judkins. I think just for me right now, I'm at the point where I'm just focused on this bowl game, just going out with my guys. That's my main focus, is just to win this game. Dart asked about what would go into his decision-making process. Well, like I said, I have a great support staff around me that's able to give me really good advice. There's a lot of things that go into it, but like I said, I'm just focused on this bowl game and going 1-0 this week. Can we be real?
Let's be real.
They're negotiating. They're trying to get every dollar that they can possibly get because we play in an era where they have leverage. Leverage in so much as if they want to transfer, they can. There is nothing keeping them from it. I don't think either of these guys want to transfer. I don't think Jaxson Dart wants to go anywhere else. I don't think he plans to go anywhere else. But I do think Jaxson Dart knows that being a good quarterback, a really, really good quarterback at the college level, is a valuable thing right now. We talked yesterday about the company that Quinshon Judkins is in terms of what he has accomplished in his first 2 years. He is one of two running backs in the history of the SEC that as a freshman and a sophomore has gone over 1,000 yards and has 15 or more rushing touchdowns. The other is Herschel Walker. That's it. And there are only 9 in college football history that have done it. And so Quinshon Judkins and maybe the people around Quinshon Judkins see value there. So, to that end, there is leverage. But Borky, leverage only truly exists if there is a suitor who is willing to pay as much or more, and maybe significantly more, than Ole Miss is willing to pay for these guys. Correct. And before you throw your hands up and you're like, just pay them whatever they want. No, that's really bad business. That's not how the Grove Collective and Ole Miss have been successful in terms of building their roster over the last couple of years. Just give them whatever they want. That has not been the mindset that has led Ole Miss to have a really good roster. And newsflash here, and this is going to catch some people off guard, and may have some people raise their eyebrows at me a little bit. Ole Miss didn't do or isn't doing what they have done in the transfer portal this year simply by throwing money at guys and saying, just give them whatever they want. Now, Ole Miss has been very, very competitive financially. You heard a lot of people say, and this is accurate, I believe, that the offer that Ole Miss made to Walter Nolan was significantly better than anybody else's offer. But that wasn't a situation where it was like, just whatever he wants, just give it to him. It was a negotiation. And they were willing to pay what they ultimately paid because of the value that they saw in him and what he could bring to this team. And so just give Jaxson Dart whatever he wants. That doesn't make any sense. And here's the thing here's the catch in all this. Does it matter? Like, does it really matter if Ole Miss gets a deal done today that they announce tomorrow that Jaxson Dart is coming back? Does that matter? No. Ole Miss doesn't play another football game until
August 31st.
The end of August next year of 2024. They just have to ultimately get a deal done with Jaxson Dart. And so, if you feel like you've got the upper hand because you are the incumbent, and you feel like you have put a fair deal on the table, and your guy is going, well, I think I can get this, then don't you say, test the waters a little bit. See what you can get. Because if you don't think that your quarterback can go get significantly more money than you're offering, well, then the market told him what he was worth. And maybe it's what you were willing to pay. Maybe you got to bump it a little bit, but maybe you don't have to go to what the actual number was. I'm so hesitant to throw numbers out, like even as illustrations. Yeah. I don't think that's a good plan.
Because people take it as gospel.
Yeah, and that's not the deal. So if Quinshon Judkins thinks that he's worth 50% more than whatever Ole Miss is offering, maybe he is. But maybe he's not. Maybe on the open market he's not worth as much as he thinks he is. And so that's part of the business strategy piece of it for Ole Miss. We'll do what we've got to do, but there's no sense in overpaying just to be able to put a tweet out.
You laid it out nicely. I mean, this is so for Ole Miss fans have really enjoyed the fruits of this era lately, right? I mean, the portal class is really good. The roster retention's been great, and it's almost like fans kind of forgot that there is an ugly side to this too, that sometimes you are going to have to deal with players possibly doing what they're doing, but this is just part of it. There's good and bad to this. You can build rosters. You can level the playing field. We've seen it. Missouri, Louisville, Ole Miss all have leveled the playing field to a degree, getting good players, all that. But there's also this side of it. It's just part of the game now moving forward. So, frankly, you just kind of have to deal with it. But using your brain for a second, just thinking logically, if they didn't intend to return to Ole Miss, would they be playing Saturday? If Quinshon Judkins was about to take, if you believe what people say, which you shouldn't, $1.5 million to go play for LSU, you think he'd line up in an Ole Miss uniform on Saturday and risk that? Probably not, right? If you're Trey Harris and Jordan Watkins and Caden Priestcorn and Juice Wells, would you have committed and signed on to stay with Ole Miss, not knowing who your quarterback is going to be? Probably not, right? Because they could have either gone to the NFL or all three of them could have put their names in the portal and possibly gotten more money than what they're getting from Ole Miss, if we're being honest. Trey Harris could have gotten a lot of money had he entered the portal again, but chose not to. You think he did that not knowing? Lane Kiffin brought Spencer Sanders, a 4-year starter, into Ole Miss last year despite having Jaxson Dart. They are in on no portal quarterbacks. Do you think that he would be, Lane Kiffin, of all people, Lane Kiffin would not be recruiting quarterbacks if he didn't know who he was going to have next year? Maybe the deals, quote unquote, aren't done. But there's one thing that everybody there expects to happen. And it's Jaxson Dart will line up at quarterback for Ole Miss in 2024. The receivers expect it, the tight end expects it, the coaching staff expects it, because they've been told that that's what's going to happen.
I think I can say this now. I hope I don't get in trouble for saying this. I don't think I will. I don't know who I'd get in trouble with. After last season, there were a lot of offers for Quinshon Judkins after his freshman year. And they got a deal done with him. And then they had to renegotiate that deal. And then they had to renegotiate that deal again. Ultimately, it got done. It's not as simple as just, hey, here's the deal. You good? Okay, sign it. Guys can Borky, I am not the we've got to have guardrails guy. I'm just not. It's, was it Brett that talked about it yesterday? It's like, if it's a free market, let's enjoy freedom, right?
Right.
Okay. These guys, just because they negotiate an NIL deal, doesn't mean they can't do it again. It's not a sign. Yeah. And you also have to remember that you're not dealing just with Quinshon Judkins. You're not just dealing with Jaxson Dart. You're not just dealing with Walter Nolan or any of the other guys you want to say. You're dealing with everybody that's involved with them, their representation, their family, their people. And all these guys have representation and family and people now. If it was just you sit down with the player himself and you try to work out a deal, it'd be a whole lot easier. That's not how it works.
No.
And so not only do players themselves have people talking to them and saying things to them and whispering things into their ear, and they're reading things on their own about what they're worth and value and what other people are getting. All of those people who are around them have the exact same thing happening. Hey, your son or your daughter, we're talking about sons here in the case of football. Your client, your former player could be getting this here. Oh, you agreed to what? Oh, you can get more than that. I mean, and so it's not just a simple, Borky, if I want to hire you for a job, you may have people in your life that you trust. You may talk to your dad. You may talk to an attorney or an accountant and kind of get an opinion. But if I'm hiring you for a job, I'm dealing with you. And I'm dealing with your situation. And you've got to determine, do I want this job or do I not want this job? If I don't have an agent, if I did have an agent and ESPN was saying, hey, this is the deal, well, my agent is trying to get me the best deal that he can, but it gets to a point in the negotiation where it's like, hey, here is our offer. If you want it, we want you. If you don't, we wish you the best. And then I've got to decide, with the advice of my agent or people that are close to me, do I want it or not? It's not like this ongoing thing forever and ever. But here's the difference. They make their offer. We negotiate back and forth. We agree. They sign they write a contract. They hand it to me. These are the terms of the contract. I sign it, and now it's binding. Based on what's in the contract. There may be outs in the contract. There may be look-ins into the contract. But, and just to, not to overplay this, let's say that I sign a contract with ESPN based on who I am and what I do right now. And something happens and there's an announcer that gets sick. And they slide me into that announcer spot for a game. And it turns into a great game. And I have this iconic call. And they're like, man, we got to use this Richard guy on more stuff. And so they decide to start using me on more stuff. That doesn't mean that I get to all of a sudden be paid like Chris Fowler just because I'm doing higher profile stuff. I'm on contract to do events for them at X number of dollars per event. Now, when my contract's up, I get to renegotiate, and then I've got some leverage because I'm valuable at that point. But I still got to sign the deal, do the contract. But that's not the case with these guys that we're talking about right now.